Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Championship Leadership Podcast, and we have Alister Esam here from the UK. Did I say that right? I almost always ask before I hit record, but how did I do with that last name?
You got it spot on, mate. Pleasure to meet you.
I appreciate good. Like I said, I like to ask that before, but regardless, I'm excited to have you here and appreciate you being here today.
Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopping right into it, I know you've listened to a few podcasts, so you got to know what the first question is coming up. Championship Leadership is the name of the podcast. What comes to mind for you? What does championship leadership mean to you when you hear that?
So I thought about this when I listened to a podcast just now, and I thought I better have an answer for that. And I think what it occurred to me was people don't think of so many people, not everybody, but a lot of people don't think of leadership as a separate thing. They're kind of head of sales, or they're head of marketing, or they're kind of, and they don't think of their role as leadership unless you're a CEO that's managed to delegate everything, and then you start to think, oh yeah, what do? I guess I lead, right? I better do it. So I think the key thing that springs to mind is almost that a lot of people aren't even focusing on it because they're too busy doing their day job and they don't realize they have to do it. But when you do realize you have to do it, as happened to me, then it becomes quite it's quite a challenge, and there's a lot to learn, and it's a shame more people don't kind of realize that sooner, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. We're close to 300 episodes, and I always get a different answer, which is awesome. And no one's really spoke to that before. I probably take it for granted because, I talk about leadership all the time. So I think of it separately every single day. But yeah, I think you're right. There's probably more people that really more consumed with the title, the role that they're in versus the fact that they're leading people.
And I think my own personal journey, I set up a business, bootstraps it, and you're there and you're just doing everything and you're involved in everything. And it's only really when you sort of get a team that you can trust that starts to take charge of it and everything sort of runs itself that you start to think, well, I need to actually kind of focus on this new thing that I hadn't really been focusing on. I think there's a load of people in that position.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about you for those that don't know who you are. Kind of give us a little background on your story, your journey, and how that's taken you to where you are today and what it is that you're up to today.
Yeah. So I trained as an actuary, which is for those of your listeners who don't know what an actuary is, it's sort of a consulting job for people who find accountancy too exciting. So I trained as an actuary. I wanted to escape that career. I kind of paid well, but I hated it. And it's kind of really can be quite a dull role. And to escape it, I set up my own business, and I tried that once, learned how not to do it. We're working with another guy where things went wrong and it all went pear-shaped. And then next second time round, I kind of figured it out and managed to get it right. And I set up a business which it was software as a service before software as a service was a thing. And I just thought it was really cool that you could rent software to people. My dad rents farm buildings out to people, but he's only got so many. So when he's rented them all, that's it. His income's done. Whereas, you can build the odd extra one, but that's it. But whereas renting software, you just, as soon as you find another client, you just make a copy, rent it again. And I thought back in 2004, I thought that was really cool. So I set this business up, and what we did was we did electronic board papers. So people attend board meetings, and they used to turn up with big hefty paper packs that had been prepared for them, that arrived through the post a couple of days earlier. Now they turn it with iPads. And we took them on that journey from using paper packs to iPads, which surprisingly they hated at first, but eventually we kind of won them over, and now everyone does it. So I ran that business. And that was where I was kind of like, where my leadership comment comes from. I ran that business for too long, 15, 14 years, something like that. And eventually I exited it, sold it to our biggest US competitor, and I guess what had happened while I ran that business is I've been on a little bit of a journey, and I kind of, and it probably speaks to why I said that about the leadership point, because we were about 10 people at an early stage in the business, and I was meddling in everybody's business, working 80 hours a week. And I think a lot of people fall into this trap. I didn't know what a CEO did. So what a CEO did in my world was like, I was just making sure everything was perfect. And I was running around policing quality on everyone's back, giving them a hard time. And I was working 80 hours a week. They hated it. I'm pretty sure they didn't say
Right.
so at the time.
Yeah.
But they were, they just wished I'd leave them alone because they wanted autonomy. And I just thought, how can I ever make this business bigger? Because I can't make it 10 times bigger because there's not 10 of me. So
Yeah, right.
So I tried to systemize my business with process, and I tried to use that to control my business, and it didn't work. You can't do that. And eventually, over a period of a couple of years, I learned that that actually you can put process in place in a business and make it run really slickly. But the way to do it is to do it differently. The way to do it is to treat it not as something that you use to control your business, but as something that empowers people. Anyway, I did that, and when I sold my business, I thought, I need to teach this to some other people, because I see a lot of founders, CEOs out there that haven't learned this stuff yet and are still wrestling their business off the ground. And so I set up Process Bliss, which is basically a software company, but we uses the software I built in my old company to manage this issue. But it's trying to transform this perception of process from being something that's controlling and horrible to something that could be possibly empowering and reassuring and liberating. So yeah, now I do that. I run that business part-time. I got a great team working for me, and I invest in other tech businesses as well. So I've got about 15 other mainly tech businesses that I've invested in that are pretty much all bar one are doing pretty well. So yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's great. Software is how does one get into software? I have a friend that has a pretty successful and up and coming software company for business coaches as well. And he's not a tech guy, but that's the one thing that I think maybe some people, when you think software, you think you got to be the guy that probably creates it and codes it and comes up with it. But I don't think that's probably the case all the time. So nope. How was that journey for you? Was that the same for you, or?
Yeah, no, I was I was kind of good at maths and pretty okay at software when I was very young. Had a little BBC computer, which was the computer of choice in the UK at the time when I was back in the 80s. But I wasn't a software person, and I wanted to do something in software, and I actually tried. Whilst the business that I mentioned that didn't work was going down the pan, I had some time, so I actually learned to code, and I was rubbish at it. I mean, I was really useless at it. I built this website. It was like there's a website called Check a Trade, which actually has been successful over here. But it reviewed tradespeople and stuff and matched them all up, and it kind of worked. It looked horrible. I couldn't get people to use it, and I kind of thought, oh, this isn't working. So I had my software idea, and I partnered and gave 50% of the business to a tech company that wanted to invest in it, and they said, yeah, we'll take 50% of the business and we'll help you get it set up. And that was really grateful for them to do that. After about a year and a half, they'd spent a fortune developing the product, and we hadn't got very far, and I was determined to make it work, and they'd lost faith. And so they kind of said, we don't want to do this anymore. You're gonna have to sort it out for yourself. So I kind of got the servers and had to kind of go hunting around for some other tech people to do it. So I kind of just hunted around and found people to do stuff in the early days. And I think there was a shortcut there in that we used we kind of built on something that already existed, which made it a lot easier, and almost started by selling a slightly modified version of something that was already out there. But that soon changed. I then gradually learned how to do it,
Yeah, right. Yeah, absolutely. What's who have been some championship leaders inside of your life that have impacted you? Getting back to the championship leadership team, who, it's always interesting too. Sometimes I got some people that will be like, well, no one. And I'm like, no one, come on, you got to give me someone. Like, someone has made an imprint on your life. But yeah, so for you, coach, mentor, leader across your life, and what is it about them as well? Like, what are some of the characteristics that have stood out?
The thing is, I'll give you an answer, and it is a bit of a no one, but I'll give you my answer anyway. But I didn't work.
After saying that, you're like, man, I gotta think of someone.
I've been running my own business for a long time, so I haven't really worked for people. I'm basically haven't worked for anybody since I was kind of in my late 20s, really. And I had the one leader that I had since then was the guy I set up this business with. But he was a role model in how not to do it. He really was. So
Yeah.
I don't want to go there. You know,
Well, there's a lot to be said about that too, right? I mean, we can learn from
Right,
people
I learned a lot
either
from
way.
that. I mean,
Yeah.
when I set up my first successful business, I basically did the opposite of what they did, in lots of ways. And you know, so you've got lots of stuff like that. But I think one of the most influential things on me, and I'll give a plug here to something called Vistage, but is I joined Vistage when I wanted to solve this problem. I basically came to a conclusion whilst I was going on this journey and whilst I was figuring out this process stuff that I kept making mistakes, and I wanted other people around me that could kind of predict those mistakes before they happen, because it'd make it a lot easier than learning everything the hard way. And when you're running your own business, you don't have a lot of, you know, there's no one up there necessarily with you all the time guiding you, especially if you're a sole founder of a business, as I was. So I joined a CEO network, and the one I chose was Vistage, and it's been brilliant because you get surrounded by 15 CEOs from all different, you know, backgrounds.
Yeah.
And they've all got different experience. You've got estate agents, you've got double glazing companies, you've got people who do all sorts of wacky sort of stuff. And you go along and you just kind of learn with them and ask them to help you with your business issues.
Yeah,
that
makes
makes
sense.
been that's been one of the most influential things, just having all those people around me. And so I've learned from all of them in different ways. I've learned from the ones that are really successful, and I just got it absolutely spot on and know how to do everything. But I tell you what, I learn more from the ones that don't know how to do it, but you know, have issues, and you kind of sit and work through those issues with them, and just the whole experience of it has been brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I thoroughly recommend that for anybody that you know, is in that position. So yeah.
Called Vistage, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes total sense. I mean, surround yourself with others that are kind of in that similar space and similar path, and kind of learn together, right? Rising tide raises all ships. So I like that. What's the vision for you and what you are looking to do? Championship leaders, in the States. Are you an American football guy at all?
No, I'm afraid I'm not. I'm a soccer guy. So
soccer guy. All right. So there's a few coaches that are in the States. They just continue to rise to the top every year. Bill Belichick of the Patriots, Nick Saban of Alabama in college football, and it's just impressive to me, because in order to do that and to do it year after year, especially when you're competing against the best of the best in the world, you have to have an incredible vision and courage to take action on it. So what's the vision for you, maybe even short term, next 5 years, and probably more importantly than that, the impact that you want to make in that time frame?
Yeah, so my main focus, and I'm very determined about it, I'm very focused on it, and it's the reason I sold my previous business. Was in that previous business, I had built this kind of way of managing process and this software product that managed process. And I looked at all these other people around me in my little CEO network and all the other CEOs that I know. And there seems to be this endemic problem in business where people cannot let go of their business. They passionately love it, founders in particular, but they passionately love their business. They're working in it, not on it. They're kind of so involved in it, and they're pissing off their staff, and excuse my language, but they're annoying their staff, and you kind of feel sorry for them because they're so intense, and it's making them unhappy. And that's where I was, and I found a way out of it, and process was my way out of it. It unlocked something for me, which suddenly made my business transform from me kind of being on top of everything and on top of everybody to suddenly them taking responsibility for everything and then running things through these processes, and me just gaining this increasing level of trust. And I remember saying to my EA at the time, the less I do, the better it gets. And I literally was just like giving them more and more and more, and they would take it and love it. And for me, that was just quite transformational. And it was this little process thing that unlocked it. So where my future lies is kind of trying to take that to the world. And it's the reason I sold my previous business. I got to a point where I've done that, And now this seems so much bigger and so much better. And so that's where process-based fits in. And it's where I've written a book called The Dirty Word about it as well. It's where that fits in, which is really, it's called The Dirty Word because the problem with process is everybody hates it and they treat it like it's this dirty word. And I had this, I came up with a name as an aside. I came up with a name because we're all working from home these days, and we're just at the end of COVID, when my wife had a friend around and she's in the kitchen, my wife's friend's in the kitchen, and I'm upstairs working, which is where my office is. And I pop down and my wife's friend goes, "Oh, here he is, Mr. Process, Mr." And, you know, and she's going, "Mr. Routine, Mr. Boring." Yeah. And then my wife starts chipping in. This is the woman who's known me for 30 years, starts chipping in. "Yeah, boring, and not spontaneous, you know." And all this stuff. And I'm thinking, this isn't me. This isn't fair. This isn't true.
Just piling on.
Yes. And I thought it's purely because of the word process that everyone has kind of sticks you with the label. No one wants anything to do with you. And so my mission with the products is for those people who are interested, for me to help them kind of unlock this and help them become better leaders and free them from their businesses and help their businesses run themselves. But my mission with the Dirty Word and the book is really to kind of get across that message, to support that, which is that you've got it. If you think process is evil, you've got it wrong. It isn't. It can actually be a really helpful, supportive thing for your team. And it links back to the whole theme, which I know you must get into all the time, about, you know, a lot of leadership stuff is really about just letting go. It's really about trusting people, empowering them, and letting go. And that, if you do that with process, it works. So yeah, I'm determined to transform, to make every CEO I can come across who's unhappy with this situation happy. That's kind of
that's awesome. I love that. Yeah, that's incredible. It is a dirty word. It's, you know, I hear that word and I the skin on, you know, my back kind of crawls a little bit. I don't know. It's just, but at the same time, I say that jokingly because I know how important and how incredible having systems, especially coming from the military, obviously, procedures and standing operating procedures and systems and processes is huge. So yeah. But there's like a defiant part of me that, you know, feels like you're boxed into a corner when you have systems, but I know that's not the way to look at it, right? But that's probably where a lot of people come from when they think of that, right?
Yeah, it is, and it's trying to break that down, because most people don't even want to engage to even discuss that. I mean, I've got friends that won't, they're like, "No, what you do is just wrong. It's like locking people down, controlling them, disempowering them." I'm like, "No, it's not. It's the opposite. You just don't get it. Read my book."
Yeah, exactly. Where can we get the book, by the way?
You can, if you search.
Just about
unfortunately,
anywhere.
the name gets a bit confusing because there are some other dirty words on Amazon.
I bet there is. Yeah.
if you look on Amazon, the dirty word, you'll find mine is the white and grey one. It's the board one. So yeah.
All right. Yeah. Very important. Side note there. Very cool. What switch frames here a little bit. Let's think of a time in your life, kind of a critical moment, fork in the road time where, you know, you had to make a decision. And I think there's a lot of people there right now with everything going on in our world. Obviously you made the decision that you did, which has you where you are today, but had you not, you'd be in a very different place. Is there a moment or two that you can think of that comes to mind that you could share with the listeners? Always a lot of power in hearing other people's stories and how they navigated those times.
Do you know the thing that springs to mind when you say that? And I don't know whether it was an actual point in time, but it was when I was setting up the business. The businesses were successful. The board packs business, it's called eShare, but board packs was the product. When I was setting up that business, and I was working at home, there's just me in it, and I'd got this big book about this thick of all the potential clients that I could have, and I had none of them. Yeah. Maybe I got one, I don't know, but there were 2,500. It was pension funds, so there were 2,500 pension funds, and I was calling them all up, and just went through the book. I got up in the morning, as soon as did a little bit of work I had to do around the day, but then from the morning to night, I was on the phone, calling. I hate that, by the way. I don't. It's not me
right.
At all. I'm not a salesperson. And my wife said to me, "Why don't you give up?" And I was like, "I'm really sick of this. It's getting me down. I'm depressed. I don't know how much longer I can keep it up." And my wife said, why don't you just go and get a consulting job? And at the time I went, hackles came up and I felt bad. And now I know she was just kind of saying the logical thing, like, Alister, if it's making you unhappy, don't do it. And
right.
And I think at that point in time, while she was absolutely right to offer me that advice, I think I plowed on through. And I think the one thing that successful people, especially with startups, have, and a lot of your listeners have probably gone through this already, but the one thing that successful people do when they start their own business is they have determination. I don't think it's about how smart you are or how good the idea is necessarily. I think it's about the determination just to keep going until you are successful, because it is so easy to just think this is never going to work and give up.
Yeah.
And I think that's the bit I'm proud I carried on, and I'm proud I saw it through. And when part of me wanted to give up. I think, and if you've got anybody out there who is setting up their business, or is it, young leaders who are just kind of want to get into it, and they, I think that's a real, as long as you just keep going. And Elon Musk is the prime example, right? That guy's nuts.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I'm going to make rockets take off into space. I'm going to sell it to NASA, and I'm going to make them land again where they took off. It's like, you're nuts, right? Then he just does it, right? It's just amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he never gives up. So yeah.
So when your wife says that to you, did you, in your mind, it was more like that would be giving up, like, I'm not giving up, I'm going to make this work type mindset?
It was succeed or die. I mean, it really was. I mean, I didn't want to go back to working again in that way that work. I mean, work, I always thought work was a bit of a trap, right? It's sort of like we get slaved to a screen. Well, back then we did anyway. Now the last few years have been brilliant in breaking this down, but we used to get put in a seat, made to stare at a screen, told we can't do anything other than this stuff. And we have to do that from 9 till 5. And we have to do it because we need an income. And it's kind of like a form of modern slavery, right? I mean, it's sort of, and I didn't mind hard work, but I wanted it to be what I wanted to do, when I wanted to do it, how I wanted to do it. And so I really didn't want to go back to that, as I perceived it. And this was the only way out for me. So yeah, it was succeed or die, really.
Absolutely.
Sounds dramatic.
Yeah, well, I mean, not really though. I can relate for sure as an entrepreneur. You got this thing and you're going to make it work. And when you feel like it's not, you just got to keep going. I don't know if it's stupid or smart, but I'm still here today, and obviously you made it through. So there's a lot to be said about that for sure. As we start to wrap this up, if there were one or two things that you could give the listeners that if they were to take action, it would help move their life forward today, what would that be?
Oh, well, I'd have to take that back to my little mission, which is about process, right? So I know that'll turn everybody off because I mentioned the word process.
No, not at all.
But, I think it would. I think the thing I'd say is, rethink it and look at it differently. And it's in my read my book, obviously, but it's really rethink the whole kind of concept of process, because process is there. If it's done right, it's like a supporting tool to help people do a brilliant job, and everybody wants to do a good job. But the trouble is, people, as soon as they touch it and put it in place, they just start to use it to control the business, and they treat it like it's more important than the people they've got themselves, and that's why they don't want to do it. So, it would be to try and look at it differently. Read some of the messaging I put out there about it, but it would be kind of take a fresh look at it and stop treating it like it's an evil thing that's there to enslave you.
Embrace the process. I like it. Absolutely. So other than going to Amazon, The Dirty Word, make sure that it's by Alister Esam and not somebody else, if you want the right book and message. But what are some other ways that we can follow you or find more info about what you're up to?
Well, you can contact me. I'm very happy for leaders to contact me about this issue. So, I'm always interested in hearing what struggles people have with process. Way to do that is, I think my email address is on my website, or via Twitter, Alister Esam, all one word. So yeah, I mean, that'd be a great call to action. But you can go to my website, follow me. You can do the dirty word assessment as well. But yeah, if your listeners want to get in touch, love to hear from them.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get all that linked up for you listening in right now, so that you can, click the button easily from the show notes. So appreciate you taking some time, Alister. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Brilliant. Okay. Cheers. Nice to talk to you, Nate.